Hello and welcome to our first ever live indie game spotlight. And tonight, Dean and I are absolutely thrilled to welcome Professor DM into the building to talk to us all about his brand new game, Deathbringer. Welcome, Professor DM. We couldn't be happier to see you.
Thank you. I couldn't be happier to be here. It's great to be here. And in the immortal words of Keith Richards, it's great to be here, great to be anywhere.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do today, guys, is we are going to get straight into all of the questions that we've got lined up for Professor DM. Then what we're going to do is we are going to be pinning any of your questions and we will get to them towards the end. So with that, can I just thank you for all turning up? And I'm going to start straight away with the first question. What inspired you to make this system, Prof?
What inspired me was my patrons. They have been pushing for this for as long as I've had a Patreon, which is about 5 years. And they really have encouraged me. So that was the number one inspiration, is them. And then Savage Sword of Conan magazine, Heavy Metal magazine, Elric novels, Thundar the Barbarian, all the things that I liked in the 80s when I grew up and I was playing Dungeons and Dragons that informed my game.
Fantastic. So what makes your setting unique and different to the stuff that's already out there? What is Deathbringer all about?
Well, I'd like to imagine it is the most challenging campaign setting ever for a role-playing game. So it is a post-apocalyptic sort of world where magic has mutated the wildlife and humans into monsters. And there has been a magical apocalypse where a meteor crashed into the earth and shards of it got scattered around. And it is this radioactive rock called moonstone with mutagenic properties. And the players portray adventurer characters trying to get to it. And the air itself is poisoned by magic. And when wizards cast spells, they have a chance of like triggering environmental disasters like plagues of locusts, and all the crops within a mile wither and die. And so they are hunted and hated for their magic casting abilities. And the air, as I mentioned, it's poisoned, so players roll with disadvantage for hit points. So you can be a 5th, 6th level character and you got about 12 hit points.
Wow.
So it is tough. It is tough. And there's no magical healing. There's no way to recover the hit points. I mean, there is. You can get a plague doctor can stitch you up for a couple of D4 hit points. But it is tough. There's no short rests, there's no long rests. There's breaks between sessions where you could recover your hit points. But once a scenario has begun, if you stop to rest and you end the session during a goblin attack, well, that town is going to get overwhelmed and they all die. There's no, I'm going to get all my hit points and spells and just get all my resources back and just keep going this session. That's not going to happen. So those are just some of the things that make Deathbringer a little different.
Fantastic. Sounds quite brutal. Sounds very brutal indeed.
Does. So, of course, you've used the Shadowdark engine, as it were. Is that fair to say? But have you made modifications? Have you tweaked it? Have you made changes to it?
Yes. So in Shadowdark, there are a number of circumstances, different modes you can play on. For example, you could play with damage dice explode. If you roll the maximum number on the dice face, so if it's a D8, if you roll an 8, you automatically roll the die again for more damage, and you add to your total. And if you roll it again, you just keep rolling until you roll something else for massive damage. That is a mode in Shadowdark. But in Deathbringer, it's standard operating procedure. In Shadowdark, the torch timer can last as little as 30 minutes. That's standard operating procedure for Deathbringer. So It is Shadow Dark, but it's harder. It's more difficult. And but it will be familiar to anyone who is familiar with Shadow Dark. And at the same time, it's its own stand-alone game. But I really think that role-playing games, their systems are like computer codes or computer systems or platforms. And this is if Shadow Dark were Apple, we're making an app that is compatible with Apple products, because there's only so many different ways to reinvent the wheel. And I think that when things like stat blocks are really difficult to read if you've never read a role-playing game before. But if you have, you look at OSR stat blocks, you look at Shadow Dark stat blocks, and you see armor class, hit dice, hit points, damage, and they're all in the same places. So it becomes second nature to you as a game master, and that speeds up play. So that's what I went with this system, and I think it was the right thing to do, right? Because it's doing comparable to Shadow Dark numbers rather than just always inventing a new system, which the challenge you deal with is path dependency and sunk costs. The players feel, I've sunk this much time into this relationship with this role-playing game. I don't want to learn a whole new thing. Now you don't have to. You don't have to. Someone else referred to it as the Borgification of Shadow
Yes.
Dark. Like, how you Mjorkborg, Mjorkborg, and now you got Pirate Bjorg and like a million Borgs. We're doing that with Shadow Dark.
Oh, excellent.
That's
Sounds
cool.
pretty good. Yes. Right. The races you have within your setting, how many races do you have? Is it only human, or do you have other races?
It's just human. If you want to bring
Okay.
elves or dwarves in, you can. But I wanted to stick to sword and sorcery, and everyone's a human, and the worst monsters are humans.
Ooh, always.
Yes.
And of course, this is one, and I'm expecting the answer is going to be 3d6 down the line. But how do you determine your attributes?
There are going to be two different ways. You got 3d6, and I think you can switch a couple of them. You could switch your attributes a little bit, but you roll 3d6. You can't change them. And if they're low, if your stats are too low, even before you play the game, you are discarded on a pile of skulls because you were too weak. Your parents thought you were too weak and weren't going to survive and just eat their resources, so you're discarded on a pile of skulls. So if you're really your stat, but if you get +1 or better, you are going to play that character.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of mercy in the game then for poor stat rolling, if you could call it that.
Yes, but we do it in a funny way.
Yes.
This is like one of my favorite games is Traveler. I like the old Traveler where you could die before you ever. It was a game in and of itself. You could die before you ever play the character, but for the character's first game. I wanted to keep that. I think that's a lot of fun.
It is. So moving on to the classes, I'm not going to revisit the classes because they're very detailed in your Backerkit, and you've got a lovely video where you talk about them. But I've got a big question. What would you say is your most unusual class?
The most unusual class to me is, that's a good question. To me, it's the Doom Scribe, which is our version of the wizard, because you don't. The mind-breaking part is you don't automatically get spells when you level up. You have to find those spells, or an NPC has to give you those spells, or wizards, they have to tattoo their spells on their skin. That's where the formula is, the trigger words for your spells. So if you get into a conflict with another Doom Scribe and you kill them, you have to take their skin.
Oh,
and so that, to me, that's the most unusual twist on something. And the critical, like Shadow Dark, you got these critical on a 1. Something really bad happens. But in Deathbringer, it's just even worse. And it really affects that environment, as I already explained. So it provides an in-game explanation, in-game world building. Because one of the things that I always wonder about in a Dungeons and Dragons world, how come the wizards don't rule everything?
Mm.
How come elves used to have a strict level limitation? It's like, okay, if you're an elf wizard, no problem. You can only go up to 8th level. Now, players see that as limiting. Well, why is my elf so limited? But Gary Gygax understood it was world building. If your elf can go up into unlimited levels and live hundreds of years, why don't the elves completely dominate the world?
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
So I've attempted to answer that. I have Deathbringer is two different design philosophies. One is over the top action and gore, but the other is verisimilitude. Like I'm always thinking, like, why don't the wizards take over in this world? And so I want there to be certain logic. It's got to be grounded a little bit.
That's fantastic.
Like Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, from what I've heard. What I've heard about Nolan's Odyssey is it is fantastic, but it's also grounded.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do here. Sorry to
Fantastic.
cut
No, it's perfectly fine. Of the 8 classes you have, then which one's your favorite?
Ooh, that's a question.
Oh, the Deathbringer. The Deathbringer, because the Deathbringer gets to spend Deathbringer. Deathbringer does two things that are cool. If you drop an enemy, you attack again immediately someplace, anything that's in the vicinity. And then you could spend a Deathbringer die to make an extra attack. So if you accumulate Deathbringer dice just when you need to, just when you get up against that big bad, you can make a flurry of attacks just when you need to. And that's fun.
Brilliant.
That sounds good. Mind you, I quite fancy the Battlemen myself.
Yeah, the Battleman looks cool.
It does.
Now Battle Nun is cool. Yeah, she's great.
That's absolutely fantastic. So you have the Scattered Empire. So you mentioned about the meteor crashing down to the world. Can you tell us a little bit about the Scattered Empire?
It's the Shattered Empire, and the reason it's based on the Holy
yeah.
Roman, not the Holy Roman Empire. It's based on the year of 7 emperors of the Roman Empire, where there was a year where there were just 7 emperors. They just kept killing each other and taking over, and no one knew who was really in charge because no one was really in charge. That's such a more interesting world than a world where, like, I like Warhammer's vibe, but Emperor Karl Franz just ruling over everything, and he's all organized and everyone's behind him and they're fighting off evil. That's not as interesting as, like, you don't know who the leader of the world is, and it may change. And every session you roll to see who is in charge of your local area, and the rules for that area will change. Like, all of a sudden, swords could be illegal, or dooms on sight. So the circumstances will change. Which, again, verisimilitude. That's probably what the real empire was like at that time.
I like the sound of that. So I think by the sounds of it that the typical session sounds actually quite brutal, but is that the sort of play style that you're expecting? You're expecting a lot of shenanigans.
Absolutely, because there are two things I can't stand about role-playing games: waiting for my turn and a session where nothing happens.
Yep.
I want to see things happen. I don't like filler sessions. Now, that doesn't mean it's all deadly all the time, because people ask, well, how often do my the characters die in my game? And the answer is not more than other games. But they're very cautious. Like, if they take out their swords, they mean business, and they'll do everything they can to get the advantage and strike first, because fighting is serious business.
Becomes tactical then, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does. Talking of fighting, nice segue into this next one.
Combat
Your
away.
combat. I've had a look at what's written on the Backerkit, all about the combat. And the first thing that took my attention is you use zones instead of battle maps. Could you explain what that means and how that works?
There are 3 zones, near, close, and far, and they represent abstract distances. And at the center zone, imagine a target in the center zone. That is melee combat. That's melee distance. It's close. You can hit anyone. It's really a 20, 30-foot radius. And in a turn, you can move anywhere in that circle and hit anyone or anything. And then just out of that, and that's actually where you put the party. If you're playing with miniatures, that's where you would put people. It functions like a spotlight on a stage, right? So if you've ever seen a musical like Les Miserables, it's got that round stage in the middle. And Jean Valjean, or whoever the main character at the time, they're in the middle, and the spotlight goes on them. And that's what that middle circle is. And you build the terrain around the miniatures instead of the dungeon moving across the table through the rooms. You just put your terrain pieces on the terrain in the middle and a lazy Susan, and all of your players can spin it and see exactly what's going on. So that's the middle zone, is melee distance. Just out of that, just what would be just as your torch is getting dimmer, that's range distance. And we're not counting feet and we're not counting inches. Range distance is an arrow, it's a spear, it's whatever you're going to throw. It's a rock, it's within rock throwing distance. And then the most distant, well, not most distant, that's far distance. You'd have to actually run to the combat to participate in it. And then after that, it's off the board. And the question I always get asked, well, what if my players are in, different zones? And my response is, well, how are they alive? Because they split the party. That's how every TPK happens, is like, that guy is so far away, the cleric can't get to him. So it's a faster way. I like miniatures. I love them. But I noticed that through thousands of hours of play, it's just, if you're playing Kingdom Death or Warhammer, counting out inches and squares is fun. It's fine. But in a role-playing game, it's so boring. And I want it to be faster. And that's why I did it that way.
Okay, it sounds absolutely fascinating, and I've only heard of the kind of this zone approach a few times, and it sounds like it works, and it works really well for the style of combat that you're putting forward. Love it. Initiative. That's the other one that really caught my attention. Whoever strikes first goes first. Is that right?
Yes, initiative is optional. Initiative, and actually, I think that D&D rules are actually written this way, but everyone's playing it wrong. The dice in Dungeons & Dragons and the new Dungeon Master's Guide, they say you're only supposed to roll dice if there's a question that can't be answered by the narrative. So if someone says, if you're in a negotiation with an opponent, and then all of a sudden things break down and the player says, I punch him in the face, that's a clear, he won the initiative. You only roll after that. So if the game master can hand wave the initiative and just say, you go first. After the first round, then you roll initiative to see who's got the jump and attacks first for the next round.
Okay.
Unless they're evenly matched. If it's a battlefield, they both see each other, they run at each other, the game master could say, well, neither side has the advantage. That's why you're going to roll initiative. But initiative, it takes so long to adjudicate, like especially with this is a real deep dive into game design, but it's a concept called granularity. Anytime you make a mechanic more granular, you slow the pace of the game.
Yeah.
So if you have side-based initiative, it doesn't take that long. If you want to have individual initiative, which was in original Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, if you chose that and you have dexterity affecting that, well, then it's going to take much, much longer. and it's fine for 3 players. But once you get beyond that, and I play with big groups, it just takes too long and it slows the game. You're spending. I love Critical Role, but I have watched them spend no joke, not as much anymore, but in earlier seasons, spend 4 or 5 minutes just determining who goes first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's why initiatives rolled once and never touched again. You don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing, simultaneous rolling and resolution. How does that work? Because you were talking about all the players decide what they're doing, and then everybody rolls and resolves their actions at the same time.
Yes, we're gonna that's something that we're gonna be play testing, and I'll tell you the advantage of it, and I'll tell you the disadvantage of it, because I have been playing testing with this group. My idea is most of the time when I play these games, I'll say, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" Okay, all right, you all want to attack this same ogre. Good. Pick up your dice and roll in 3, 2, 1, shoot. And everyone rolls and the damage at the same time. It just reports to me. I hit armor class 18, scored 8 damage and that kind of stuff. So it just speeds it up because I don't like waiting for my turn. And if we're all attacking the same thing, we could do that. There is one downside, which I've discovered, which is if you do get a natural 20, it kind of takes away from that because you're looking at your own roll. So I don't know if that'll survive play testing, but it's an idea. It is an idea.
Okay.
And early on in my channel too, I had a really crazy idea that everyone just attacks at the same time. If you initiate a fight with something, you get to roll and they get to roll. Do you really?
Cool.
And if they miss and you hit, it just, okay, you hit them before they ever got to you.
Yeah.
But we didn't keep that. I find side-based initiative, if you have to do initiative, gets people cheering. It's like you're cheering for your team, and everyone goes, "Yay!" when they win, and you never get that. You don't get that with any other initiative system.
Yeah,
no, I like that.
I do
like that.
Yes, the death dice. Could you go into a little bit more detail on that? And is it per session or per adventure?
Great question. So the death dice are a pool of d6s, and if you back the game, you get their skulls to differentiate your other dice, and you can spend them to add to a d20 roll, increase your damage by d6, or block d6 damage, and you can use multiple dice at once after you've made that main roll, so they're never wasted. Right, if you roll a 2, you're not going to spend them. But if you need a 14 and you roll a 12, well, then you could let me spend 1. Oh, I rolled a 1. Let me roll another 1. Right, and you could use it to manipulate your die roll. It's fudging, but for the players, right? It's adding a narrative element. So because the players they're portraying heroes, right? So they have to have an advantage over the enemies, right? They are the main characters, and it allows them to be flexible. You don't need, when we're talking about feats, right? For feats for 5e Pathfinder, 90% of feats add to your damage, right? Or they some sort of circumstance, or they add to your defense. This is doing that, but we're just giving you a dice. There's nothing to look up, so you stay with the narrative. So you don't have to say, if you really want to take this enemy out, you want to sneak up behind the cultist from the pillar and you want to stab him and throw him in the pit with the monster, but you're not a rogue, that's okay. You could do that. That's how you're spending your death dice in this session. And you could do something cool just when you want to do something cool, when the opportunity presents itself. Because there's nothing worse in a role-playing game than you have the opportunity to do something cool, and then you roll a 4 and you can't do it.
Gutting.
We've all had those nights where you just can't, nobody's rolling over 5 or a 6. Well, if you save your death dice, you will make that a roll when it really counts. Or if you roll a natural 20 and you get your bonus Then I've seen my players like, oh, he rolled. You could give the death dice to other people too. So I've
Oh,
seen
nice.
when there's a tough opponent, someone rolls natural 20, everyone's like, here's the dice, chicka, 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 boom, and you have an epic, massive attack. And it's fun. Spongy mechanics like that are fun. They reduce the bean counting element. And, with the world's most popular role-playing game, how many YouTube videos have you seen about the balance? There's no balance. The CRs aren't balanced. How do we get the balance? You don't want balance in your role-playing game.
You don't.
You want something at some point. One side has to get a massive hit and turn the tide of battle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
And it's got to come within, 3 rounds. That's what makes fights exciting.
Absolutely. So how many dice do you start with, and how do you gain more?
DM's discretion, everyone's going to gain at least 1. And if you have fewer players, I would recommend giving them more. And if you have more players, you got 6 players, I would give them 2. If you have 4 players, I'd give them 3. And then it depends on how, as a game master, how tough you want the game to be.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for new game masters, you never played before, I'd give them 3. Give them a fighting chance on the first level.
It's like a difficulty slider.
It is. And you can give them more, and you can give them more, and you can see, well, they're getting beat up, but they have really good ideas. All right, let me be more liberal giving out the death dice.
Fantastic. Moving on, the critical success menu. So when you do a critical hit, it's not just more damage, you've got a menu. Is that randomly determined, or do you get to select something from the menu?
You get to roll an extra D12, but there are critical hits. If you kill something, they're going to be critical hits on the inside cover, so you could just describe it. Right? So it's like, okay, you just, shattered their femur, or you slashed through their carotid artery, or you chopped off his head. If the game master wants to have that narrative detail, it is going to be there as a tool for them.
Yeah.
All right. But an actual natural 20 is going to increase your damage by D12, which is very swingy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is. It is. And fumbles. Apparently, fumbles are really nasty. Just how nasty can they be?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to defend the fumble. All right. Now, some people are like, well, the fighter is going to roll the 20-sided die. You don't want 1 out of 20 chances that they're going to, lose their sword. I have watched a lot of combat. They've got like guys dressed up as knights now and doing combat. They lose their swords and axes all the time. And a knight had a squire, and the squire functioned like a caddy on a golf club, golf course. And if you were in tight combat, you'd be like, give me the 5-iron, which is a mace, and then you'd switch out the weapons all the time. I don't want you to lose your sword or weapon every time you roll a 1. So you roll a 20-sided die, and there's a chart. A 1 to 10, you almost drop the weapon, but you recover it. But 11 to 20, it's going to go falling on the ground, and depending on how high you roll, it's going to either get kicked further away or it's going to shatter, because weapons get damaged and weapons get destroyed, right? And players think it's more fun if they always win, and they're mistaken. Think of how many times James Bond has a gun and is gonna shoot it, but then that guy knocks the gun out of his hand. Why? Because the fight's going to be more interesting if they have to actually fight each other.
Yeah.
And no one can. That's a classic trope. So I kind of like the idea of, you roll a natural 1. And sometimes, if let's say I had a multiple attack in my games, I often rule that, okay, the first attack was a natural 20, but then you got a natural 1. You got double damage, but that got stuck in his ribs, and that thing just fell down a pit and took your sword with you. With him. I love swinginess in games. I think that, and I want to make it too, so that punching does a lot of damage too. It's really interesting how in role-playing games, I've noticed this. The player, if they drop their sword, they will do anything to get that sword back. They will forego punching anything. They'll spend 3 rounds trying to get that sword back instead of just punching the thing in the face. So that's one of the things I'm trying to work on with this game is you just punch him in the face.
Yes, just
Grab them by the legs and try and pull them over.
Yeah. Another thing Deathbringer dice are great for. You only cause 2 damage with the fist, but I'm going to use 2 Deathbringer dice. I do a total haymaker and score 14 more.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. So we're looking at all the ways that players can kill things and can be killed. Talking of being killed, fumbling and stuff like that. There are stages of death, are there not, for being brought to 0 hit points? Could you explain about that?
I hate waiting around doing nothing, which is why I don't care for death saves, right? Because you get 3 chances to not die. Be different if it was only 1 chance. But I don't like waiting around and just bleeding out and waiting for some cleric to rescue me. So in Deathbringer, when you're reduced to 0 hit points, you go down. But the next round, the very next round, so you don't miss anything, you pop up again with 1 single hit point. And you're going to be missing a finger or an eye or, an ear or something like that. You get to decide, and it's not going to make a difference on your character, but you get 1 hit point. If you survive that combat, then you get access to a premium talent. So Shadow Dark, instead of feats, it's got talents. And the premium talent list is going to have these great talents that'll really be worth it. And they'll be really unique and cool. And the only way you can get them is to be reduced to 0 hit points. And that can happen 2 times. So you're going to get, if you go down, you're killed twice, you're going to get these 2 premium talents. Your character will get more powerful until the final time when they die. And then that 3rd time, they could still take 1 action on which they get an automatic critical hit, and then they finally expire.
Spending all their death dice at the same time.
Yeah, and they could spend all their death dice at the same time if they have any left.
Yeah.
And because then or even if they don't, the rest of the party be like, oh, well, Dean's character is dead anyway, but he got a critical hit. Everybody pile in. And then, and he's rolling all those dice. Now you're having like this epic death. That's what Beowulf is really like. That's the prototype for Dungeons and Dragons is Beowulf. He dies fighting the dragon. He dies, but he takes the dragon with him. It's like Iron Man dies, but he takes Thanos with him. That's actually heroic. Heroism isn't you always win every single time. Every time you won. It's risking your life and being willing to risk your life for others. And, sometimes having an epic death.
It sounds amazing. We're almost done on the combat. The death stages, just to be sure, these death stages stay with your character. Is that right? So even, if you are brought to 0 hit points once, it doesn't reset. You've got your first 0, then you got your second, and it might be sessions later, you get your 3rd, and that's it. Your character's dead.
That is correct. And I never answered your question with the death dice. They respawn at the end of the session.
Brilliant. Oh, that's good. So a player tactic could be, we're struggling, let's kind of try and slow the session down so we run out of time and get our death dice back ready for the next session.
All right, Power Gamer.
It could be, but the other thing about Deathbringer, and I read about this in the Game Master section. I like sessions that go 1 session, like a session that is complete and self-contained, maybe goes over to a second one. And I also like timer dice. So encounter timer dice. When an encounter begins, you toss a D4, and you have that many rounds left before something terrible happens. That way, it gives the players forward momentum. And I always, with the first scenario that we're going to have, the fungus-licking cannibal cult, the players have to rescue these prisoners, but they're going to be eaten if you wait till the next session. There is no session, and there is no other session. And that's one of the key pieces of game master advice I don't see. And people always talk about a cinematic game, but they're missing this key piece of cinema. And by the way, I'm going to ruin just about every movie for everybody out there. Every Batman movie ends with a bomb. Every single one.
Yes.
Every Batman movie ends with a bomb, and Batman's got to stop the bomb before it goes off. He can't rest. He can't go back to the cave and rest, because then the Joker, the Riddler, or Bane, they're going to blow something up.
Do you know what?
And the reason that is,
yeah,
it's an inherent part of cinema. A ticking bomb at the end makes for a more exciting piece of entertainment. Every James Bond film ends with a countdown. So every game should have a countdown. I say that the villain's going to have a plan. And if you don't, and it's limited, at some point the players have to find out what they want to do and what the deadline is. Because if there's a deadline, then it's lollygag. It's let's lollygag in Lothlorien time. Oh, let's take a break. You know, I like it when they're in Moria and they got to keep going. You know, Gandalf is down, but they got to keep going because there's a million orcs coming at them.
If they finish the session and they're still in Moria, that's it. They're done. They got to, you know, it heralds back the 12-hour sessions. I love it. You know, it's like, we can't finish, guys. We can't finish. We're staying here till the end.
Oh, you're just taking me back to the 90s now, Dean.
I know. It's, I see nothing wrong with it. And finally, on combat, you said escaping has no penalties. So the party can at any point escape if the combat's going bad. Is that correct?
As long as there's nothing impeding their exit. If the door is open, if there's nothing standing in front of it, no one's standing in front of it, you can retreat and run away. Number one, this is realistic. Right? This is realistic. I'm actually a trained martial artist. Let me tell you what's going to happen if you are robbed. Okay, if you're robbed, what you're going to do is, and I can fight back. I would hit the person if I had to, and I would just run away. That's what I would do. Because I don't really want to be stabbed. You know, I just want to get away. And guess what's going to happen? Unless you got emphysema or something, you will outpace them. You run into a store. You're going to get away. You know, nobody turns their back and exposes it for an attack of opportunity. That's not the way fights work. In a ring, there's nowhere to go. But on the street, you want to just run away to safety. And I want players to run away to safety. I want them to be able to get away so that they can fight another day. Because this is a deadly system, right? So you got to give them an out. And not penalize them for trying to run away. But also, I love the idea sometimes of my bad guys getting away, because then they can come back for a sequel, right? So at some point, you know, the villain can just be like, okay, I'm out of here, and there's a secret door behind him. He's gone, and then, you know, you have to catch up with him later, because narratively, you know, that's cool.
Brilliant. I think we've done a lot on combat, and I said I wanted to go in depth. So I'm going to pass back to Vicky for her favorite subject.
My favorite subject in the world, spells and spellcasting. So I know you've got a bit of a different spellcasting system. So do you want to take me through it and tell me how powerful magic is? Because I love my magic users.
So as I mentioned, you have to actually go, and the spells are very much aligned with BXD&D and Shadow Dark, but they have dark twists to them, and there are some original spells that we're working on. So one dark twist is you got Tragic Missile, and Tragic Missile works like Magic Missile, but when you roll a 1, you hit your best friend.
Oh no!
Oh no!
There's also a spell called Thermonuclear Fireball, which has like you do 100d6 damage.
Yeah, I think we might have had a connection issue there. Let's just
I
give
think
it a
it
few
looks
minutes.
like a bit of technical difficulties, everybody. Technical difficulties.
I got I think something like 100 D6 and
I know I got all excited about 100 D6.
let's have a look.
I think there's
I'm back.
You're back. Brilliant.
You're back.
It was such a powerful spell. It disconnected you from a minute.
Nothing like a bit of technical difficulties to spice up a stream.
Yes.
So we got to, there was 100 D6
now you're
and I was
freezing
getting
up.
all
Hold on.
excited. Oh, okay.
Let me see. Oh, we got up. Okay. All right. I'm back.
Yes. You're back. You're back.
I'm just going to read out this because I
Okay.
cannot leave this one by. Is there a spell called Good Internet Connection? Because that would be handy right now. Very funny indeed.
I apologize. I didn't have my hard wire in. That's probably what it was there. But as I was saying before I was cut off, like thermonuclear fireball, you can roll like 36 D6, but the range is only 30 feet. So you're going to take out whatever the enemy is, but you're going to, and that's the end of your wizard. It's a spell you can only cast one time in your character's career if you happen to get your hands on it. Because I want the players, this is another thing, verisimilitude, right? In a real medieval city, the most dangerous thing was fire. Yeah. That was what could destroy the entire city. In D&D, every character gets to 2nd level, and by 5th level they can cast a fireball, every single one of them. What would that do? And there would have to be some sort of gatekeeping mechanism to make sure nutcases don't get their hands on fireballs. So, you in Deathbringer, you're going to serve a patron, and that patron is going to determine what spells you get. So that would be a logical way of explaining, well, you're not ready. I'm not giving you that spell. You could hurt some innocent people and attract attention to the doom scribes. We can't let you do that. All right. So it's a way cool. of moderating the players, because one of the things that gets out of control for game masters, because they're doing a million things, is when they get the players have nothing but time to figure out how to mix and match these spells. And there's always like overpowered spells like silvery barbs. Silvery barbs is an overpowered spell. And there's always spells like that. And people like, well, it went through play testing. No, it didn't. They just made that up on their lunch. I got to go to lunch. It's Friday, 4:00. Or let me just, silvery barb. This is what it does. Hit, save it. That's how those spells are created. And then the players find all these different ways to mix and match spells so they could do 20,000 hit points of damage. You got videos on that. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So magic is very dark and dangerous and a lot of fun. A lot of fun. In Deathbringer, in normal games, the wizard is sort of like a quarterback in American football, and they're surrounded by a bunch of fighters, like a shell, right? And they're lobbing spells. In Deathbringer, and I've been playtesting this now for 10 years with my group, when the wizard player gets angry and says, I'm going to cast a spell, everyone moves away from her. Because they don't want to be caught in the radius in the event something goes wrong.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So similar to how you've mentioned about fireball and the fact you've got to look for it, that leads me on to things like teleportation spells. Have you got teleportation spells in Deathbringer?
I think we do. And I think that if you roll a 1, you're going to be teleported into a wall, and that's the end of you. Or you're teleported into a fly and you end up like Jeff Goldblum in that movie.
Oh dear.
I believe.
Okay.
I don't like fly. I hate fly spells, but I do like teleportation. But it's going to be a risk. It's going to be a real risk there.
Yeah, Dean always finds about flying.
Yeah, fly spells suck.
They're awful. Yeah. Merlin asks, it was addressed earlier, how's it compatible with OSC or Shadowdark? It's going to be completely compatible. And people ask, like, how is that? Because you got armor class, you got hit points, you got hit dice, you got damage, you got some sort of special attack. That's all the same. And I get asked, well, the Shadow Dark, orc has an armor class 13 and an old OSR it's 14. It's not gonna make a difference. 1 or 2 points doesn't make a difference. 1 or 2 hit
No.
points doesn't make a difference when it's all stuff in D&D. All stuff in D&D. If you hit it, unless you roll badly for damage, it's dead on first level. All first level monsters. Second level monsters, you're gonna have to hit it twice unless you score a critical, and then it just goes on from there. I've tested Deathbringer with Village of Hamlet, never changes the stat, worked just fine.
Excellent. Well,
cool. I'm going to pass over to Dean now.
Well, I was wondering, there's a few more questions, but around, we were looking to ask you about magic gear and creatures, but we know your time's very limited, and we have a ton of questions that the chat has been asking. So I think I'm happy to save those for another time. And shall we have a look at what the chat's been saying?
Let us have a look at these lovely questions from the chat. So the first one we have is from John Garlick. Question for the professor. What do you think makes a great RPG?
It's got to be quick. And I like mechanics that allow the players, that are intuitive and allow the players to act without having to know the rules. If you're portraying a spy, and that spy is supposed to be an expert spy, but you're not an expert with the game, I don't like that. I think it should be simple enough that the game master can run it, and you just say what you want to do, right? As opposed to the metagame where it's like, well, I'm a swashbuckler, so I'm going to use panache and tumble through to do this extra damage. Like, that is the metagame. I'm more interested in the narrative part of the game. Like, I'm going to have my guy swing on a chandelier, kick him in the face. Okay, roll this. That's what I'm interested in.
Excellent. Now we've got a question from Vindicta. So Vindicta, great guy, Kenneth, he says, what is the most rewarding aspect of making your own game?
First of all, Vindicta is so cool. I'm writing it down. That is a cool name. That would be like Deathbringer's girlfriend. What was the question? I was blown away. Oh, what is the most rewarding aspect of making my own game? Well, seeing people play it, like going to conventions. I'm gonna give you 2 answers. I've seen people in conventions like Gen Con. I go and I see them with turntables like Lazy Susans with my Ultimate Dungeon terrain, which I came out with years ago. And these people don't even know who I am. They don't know I invented it. And it's like I'm walking around and I'm saying, wow, I made an impact on this world. Now, I've been a school teacher I was a school teacher for 3 decades. And some of my students, they have accomplished great things. They're pediatric oncologists and lawyers for the Walt Disney Company and brain surgeons. But I don't see that all the time. I don't see my impact like that. But when I see people enjoying games at conventions, that's really cool. And, the other thing that's rewarding is I collect watches, and now I'll be able to buy more watches. That's my Omega Seamaster Professional. And so that is the practical thing is I can get more watches.
Fantastic. I love it. So we have another question here from John. So also, if you could give just one piece of advice to a player and one to a DM, what would that advice be?
That's a great question, John. To a player, I would say take your turn quickly because there are other people waiting. It's like when you go, I'm where I am, it's July in New Jersey, right? Okay, if I go to the ice cream store, right, and I'm waiting for ice cream, I don't mind. I'm getting ice cream at the end. But you get stuck behind the guy in sandals and he's like, can I have a sample? and it's like, oh, dude, it just don't you see there's 12 people on this line? The players have to realize that other people are waiting to take their turns. So take your turn in an efficient manner, or say to the game master, I'm not sure what to do. Just come back to me.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
Vicky go. All right. And the advice that I would give to DMs is you have to have a scenario. This is what you got to have. You got to have about 5 encounters, and they could be rooms, and they connected by halls. That's the obvious thing you need. You also need a time limit. The players cannot have unlimited time. They have to get a thing or do a thing within that time limit. If you have that, if you have 5 encounters, 6 encounters, and a time limit, you will have a fun game. You'll have a fun game. If you don't have those things, and a clear idea of where the players have to go, and I need to know in 10 minutes what I got to do. In 10 minutes, I want to know what it is. Otherwise, it's kind of just shooting the breeze. So those are the elements. Just have those things, and never save the best stuff to the next session. I guess that's a second piece of advice. Never save the best stuff to the next session. These people aren't obligated to come to your next game. They're not under contract like Tom Holland has to return as Spider-Man whether he likes it or not. They're not under contract to you. And people, and the game master wonders, like, oh, I can't get my group together. They keep canceling at the last second. It may be that they don't want to tell you your game is boring, and they don't want to feel locked in to returning to it. So they're ducking you, so never assume your players are going to come to the next session. Make this session the most awesome one it can be. And that way, that's what's going to make them want to come back if they have a great time.
Yeah. Cool. Now, this isn't a question, but Eclectic Goat said that she just loves that your magic has consequences in Deathbringer, because she's notorious for the hatred of magic in most systems, and it sounds like something she will enjoy.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of wizards. In old school games, they temper the magic by saying, well, you can only cast one spell. And that kind of sucks. I do it by saying, you can cast these spells and they're really powerful. But if they go wrong, you're in a lot of trouble. That's how I balance out the magic. I think it's more fun that way. And
I like that. I do like that. I'm going to have fun.
Vindicta says, it would seem Professor DM is a bit impatient. My daughter was she was 4 years old, and I was upset about something, and she said, Daddy, you have no patience. You don't even have one patient.
Oh, that's funny. I can understand that, because I absolutely hate waiting for my turn. So you're not alone on that.
Yeah.
So the Jolly Roger has managed to get here, but he's at work, so he's lurking. So you make sure you focus, Jolly Roger, on this. Obviously, works fine. It'll be fine. All fine. Another one from Vindicta. I love Cairn's initiative. Players always go first unless they are ambushed, bringing agency back to the players. Let them play carefully. And again, he reckons that balance is artificial. So here we've got one from Jeff from Denkar. How do you define your home setting? What changes did you have to make it work? And any highlights that you're particularly proud of?
My home setting has always been a grim, dark world of perilous adventure. That's the Warhammer tagline, and it's always been that. And it's a tone more than a world. It's a tone more than a world. I'm a grim, dark guy. I run Call of Cthulhu, Warhammer, and very dark versions of Dungeons & Dragons. I can't run anything else, and you can't, as a game master. You got a thing that you do, and you gotta find out what that thing is, and just make your world about that. Like, I can't make a happy elf world. That other people can do that, but I can't do it. I can't do that. I hope that answered the question.
I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
did very much so. And I just wanted to highlight that I'm not going to say this well, am I? Merlin Stegandalore. That's a good go, isn't it, guys? I hate it when players get to their turn, then start asking questions about the probable outcomes of their choices. Blah, blah, blah. I shut that nonsense down. Yeah, I think you're right to do so. What do
Yeah.
you think, Professor DM?
I have a mechanic. If you take your turn quickly, you get +2 to hit. You get +2,
Woo!
Nice.
whatever you want to do, you get +2 if you just do it. You know what you want to do on your turn. And you do get experience points for taking turns quickly, just taking the Game Master's hook and going along with it. All right. And yeah, I can't stand that too. When we're into probabilities instead of adventures.
And John says, gotta love the WHFRPG vibe. There you go.
I think we've
I
got
love that
all
game.
of the chat.
I've got one more.
Oh, one more. Off you go.
Vindicta said,
I was gonna say before that, with Warhammer, I love the Warhammer vibe, but having played that game, especially the first edition, for a long time, I don't think it's as deadly as it should be.
no.
Like, I think that you got the fate points. It's got a reputation for being deadly, but it's not as deadly as BXD&D if you just played by the rules. But I digress. What's the last question?
Well, it's more of the case of a statement. And Vindicta said, you're in the middle of a deadly combat. Can I grab that object and throw it at an enemy? I think what I'm hearing in Deathbringer is that you can do whatever you want to do, but there may be consequences. Is that right, Professor DM?
Yes. And I like players. One of my taglines is, anyone can use anything as an improvised weapon. Even a leg of mutton can be a deadly weapon because every character has a right to kill something with a leg of mutton.
Yes.
I love improvised weapons, and the Deathbringer dice allow you to do that. But it can be annoying. I could see what Vindicta's saying. It's like, can I do the weird thing that is, I have weapons, but I want to throw the dish at that monster instead of just going up and hitting it. It is one of the weird things players do.
Yeah.
I think as players all get up to weird things at some point or another. But as we promised that we would keep this to close to an hour as we can, I would like to invite you back at some point to talk about your gear and magic items and creatures and GM tools. But what we'll do is we'll wrap up today with a question: what does the future hold? Now, someone had mentioned in the chat about unlocking some of the additional stuff on your Backerkit. So I'm going to really risk it now by sharing a screen.
Oh dear.
Right, which always goes wrong because it's me and buttons.
Buttons.
Hey, where have we all gone? Dean,
It's okay. I'll fix it. Don't worry.
Dean, I've lost
We're
us.
back.
There
We're
we
back.
go.
I rescued us
Yay.
from the void.
So I do believe that you have hit the implements of ruin, and that has been unlocked, and you're now heading rapidly towards Ziz or Ziz.
Z's.
The old sailor's omen of bad luck. Now it's just bad luck for you.
Oh, it's
Now
a new
that's
monster.
interesting. It's a new monster.
Nice.
So, any hints? What's going to encourage these good folks to up what they've put into your lovely Backerkit to get to Ziz?
I'm excited to see myself because that is a roll for combat thing.
Ooh.
That is,
Ooh.
yeah. The way Deathbringer works is I wrote the rules and stuff like that, but they really produce the game and sell the game. I'm not a salesperson. All I could tell you is it's gonna be cool.
You heard it here, guys. It's
It's
going to be cool.
It's gonna be cool.
All right. Well, in that case, so obviously what the Backerkit now runs for some time. I think you've got another, is it 24, 25 days?
Something like that. I haven't checked Backerkit today, but
Well, I have
it's a
I
long
have it here. Let's have a look.
24, 23.
Now I'm scrolling right the way to the top. There's lots of information. 24 days left.
Brilliant.
So you've currently got 8 people on the Backer train this very minute. You've got 5,901 Deathbringers who are looking forward to their dice. We're looking forward to our dice, aren't we, Dean?
We are looking forward to our dice.
We're very much looking forward to our dice, and we're looking forward to playing. And can I just say, I wish you all the best. I really, really hope that you get what you need from this, and that you get to launch the game of your dreams, which by the looks of it, you definitely are. From me, I'd just like to say congratulations. It really does. It puts that ray of sunshine out for all us indies. You can do it, guys. You can.
You can.
Look at Deathbringer. It's doing
Thank you so much. I
fantastically.
appreciate it.
That's great. So there may be, if we can persuade Professor DM to join us again, we might be able to expand on this. But in the meantime, it's good night from Dean.
And it's good night from Vicky.
And it's good night from Professor DM. Thank you guys for joining. We appreciate everybody who's joined tonight.
Thank you.